Did you know some pregnancy symptoms can actually affect your voice? Today we're going to talk about the voice changes that might happen during pregnancy. Today we're going to talk about pregnancy-related voice symptoms. If you're interested in learning more about vocal wellness and how to take care of your voice, I have a vocal wellness course that I'll put a link to in the description below. Okay, symptom number 1, hyponasality. In other words, you sound like you have a cold. And the reason for this is kind of annoying, but it's all those hormones that are kind of the cause for everything during pregnancy. Essentially, the hormones cause some swelling inside the nasal passages that makes you stuffy, and it can cause you to sound like you have a cold, even though you're not sick. Number 2, reflux. I did a whole other video on reflux, and I will post the link in the description below. But essentially, reflux can come up from your stomach, and it can cause heartburn and indigestion, but it can also cause problems with your voice because it can come up just a little bit higher, and your food pipe and your windpipe are very close once you get up here, and your vocal folds sit on the top of your windpipe. So when food or liquid or just reflux in general comes up from your stomach or from your esophagus, it can spill over onto your vocal folds and make them a little stiffer for a short period of time at least. And then also it can lead to increased throat clearing because of this enzyme called pepsin. Again, check out the other video if you're interested in learning more about laryngopharyngeal reflux. Number 3, changes in vocal range. So those hormones again are going to cause your vocal folds to kind of thicken a little bit, and that thickening and the swelling potentially from reflux as well can actually cause your vocal range to decrease just a bit. So your high might change, but you also might attain some new lows. Don't expect it to stick around after pregnancy. It didn't for me, for sure. And my understanding from reading research regarding this is that it doesn't tend to stick around. It tends to go back to what it was after you give birth. Number 4, a reduced lung capacity. Now this tends to happen a little bit more towards the end of the second and beginning of the third trimester. The baby's getting bigger and all of your organs are being pressed up against your diaphragm, and everything's trying to make room for the baby. By making room for the baby, it decreases how far your diaphragm can actually come down. And if your diaphragm can't come down as far, you don't have the same lung capacity, so you probably won't be able to hold the phrases quite as well as you used to. Again, this will be rectified after the baby's born and after you reattain all of your abdominal muscle strength that you'll feel like you lost for a couple of weeks after the baby comes. Number 5, postural changes. Because the baby is changing your center of gravity, your posture changes. You tend to have a little bit more of a curve to your low back, and you tend to kind of lean a little bit different, which means you're going to be posturing the muscles just a little bit differently. By doing that, that's also going to change the way that you can take your breath in the first place, and it's also going to mean that you don't want to be on your feet for nearly as long as you might have previously. Number 6, this one's a little more serious, vocal fold hemorrhage. Women who are pregnant are actually at higher risk for vocal hemorrhage. You're at a greater risk due to the increased fragility of the blood vessels all over the body, including inside the vocal folds. All right, so let's talk about voice care during pregnancy. What should you do? Well, first of all, it's a whole bunch of self-care. Just like everybody's going to tell you anyway. You need to take the rest when you need to rest. You need to make sure you're drinking enough water, even though you're running to the bathroom a million times a day. You need to work around those side effects of pregnancy. There's lots of ways to work around them as best you can, and you might not have as much time to do everything you need to, but you need to recognize that that's going to be the case. You're growing a human being. You have the right to take a little bit of time to relax and prepare for when the baby's coming. You want to take the medications for reflux as prescribed. A lot of obstetricians will now prescribe medication for reflux specifically. I didn't take it, and I wish I had. The laryngologist I work with loves to recommend Gaviscon Advanced, which you can get on Amazon. It comes from the United Kingdom. The one that we can buy in the States, I guess, doesn't have the same ingredients. And she finds that it works really well for her in general, but you'd have to check with your OB whether or not that's even okay to take when you're pregnant. I ended up just using Gaviscon, the regular Gaviscon that you can get here in the States from Target. I got it approved by my obstetrician before I started taking it, and that worked okay for me, and it made me feel better than being on a proton pump inhibitor that I didn't want to have to deal with coming off of, but that was my situation. Those medications are safe, especially for short-term use, which is all you're probably going to use it for anyway. Tylenol usually is okay with OBs, so when you're in pain, taking Tylenol is not the end of the world. It's an option. It doesn't do as much for me as ibuprofen does, but it does something, so it's worth exploring. In general, you want to consider maintaining good vocal wellness. To learn more about vocal wellness, you should consider taking my course. I'll leave a link in the description below for you to be able to check that course out. Otherwise, I'm Stacey Menton from singingmamashomestead.com. I wish you success in your wellness journey, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.